guys, and welcome back to my channel. Nice to see you. So, as highly requested from the poll that I put out a few weeks ago, everyone wants to see the worst art block of my life and me telling the story. Spoiler alert, I'm not going to do much editing in this video. There is literally no reason for you to be watching the whole time unless you really like my rainy days. So go pull out your sketchbook, go do some work, fold your laundry, drink some tea, work on your homework, do whatever you want. This is going to be a very chatty video that is ultimately should be a podcast, but it's not. So without further ado, the worst art block of my life literally ended this past September, but it lasted about a year and a half. And the year and a half before that was pretty bad. So let me just start from the beginning. This is a long story, and also please do not take this video as like a top 10 tips on how to get over art block. I have never made an art block video in my entire YouTube career because I feel like art blocks are very personal. Some of you guys might be in art block because something huge happened and it's completely thrown you off your game and that's life. Or maybe you just never really had a good habit of drawing, so now you've taken off too much of a break and now you're just completely lost. Or maybe you've been in a rut for a really long time and now your inspiration well is just dried up. There could be a million reasons and it could be several combos of any of them, so I really don't want to list off a million things that you can do. At the end of this video I will talk about how I did get over the worst art block of my life, but you're gonna have to listen to the whole story and it may or may not apply to you. You know what I mean? So just want to give that disclaimer. So this whole story actually starts at the very, very end of 2015. This was when I made the decision to transfer from UConn, and I went back home and I worked at Starbucks full-time from January to the end of August, so right before I went to Massar. Because I just left my old school and because I was so uncertain about this new school, it did lead to a lot of really negative thoughts. It did trigger the first wave of depression for me. Spoiler alert, the story is not very happy. So for that 9 months, things were kind of rough for me, but I was like, okay, I'm in school now, everything will be fine. My first semester at Massar was fall of 2016, so I was technically a sophomore. So 2016, 2017, that whole sophomore year was insanely bad. There was a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I had depression before when I was at home, but now that I was at school, things spiraled wildly out of control. And quite literally, the only coping mechanism that I had was making artwork, because if I made artwork, it would give me a little bit of attention, people would notice me, people would praise me, and it was like pretty much the only thing in my life that made me feel good. So very quickly, artwork became something of an addiction for me because I was literally spending all of my time doing artwork, not just for school, but personal projects, because literally nothing was enough for me. When I made artwork, it allowed me to not think about all the problems that I was having in my life. It was kind of like a way to escape from everything. It was just the only thing that gave me a sense of purpose in my life. So what happened that year was, on top of doing an insane amount of work for all of the classes I was taking, and I had a very, very full class load, I was also doing a crap ton of personal work. Maybe you guys weren't following me back then, but this was the year that I did 100 storefronts as a personal project. I drew 100 of those damn things in less than one semester, and I drew an entire sketchbook for the 1-week sketchbook tour. That was when I started Melon in March. I tried daily digital, that didn't happen for super long, and I'll get to that in a bit. And I was doing weekly YouTube videos, like without fail, doing videos every single week, on top of a million other things, of course. I was just constantly drawing. So my schedule at that time was waking up at like 5:15 a.m., immediately start drawing, not stop drawing until about like 8 or 9 at night, and then finally passing out and starting again the next day. Like, that was my life. Constant drawing. So finally, when sophomore year ended, there were 2 major events that finally stopped the drawing addiction, like the non-stop work. The first thing was my cat Xena dying. She was like my closest pet for pretty much my entire childhood, so there was already like that connection. But what really like broke me especially was when I was alone, that section of time between UConn and MassArt, and I was working at Starbucks and stuff, I was having a lot of panic attacks. That was the start of my panic attack hell. And she was quite literally the only thing that was there for me in those moments of extreme agony. So when she died, not only did I lose almost like a therapy pet, but also I had to come to terms with the fact that I had isolated myself so much from everyone that I had no one to express my grief to. I couldn't go to anyone and be like, I am so wrecked by this. So I just had to kind of cope with that grief by myself. And then the second thing that happened almost immediately afterward was my laptop breaking down. I had this plan to do all of these YouTube videos. It was like the summer camp series, and that was going to be my new project for the summer too, of course, not think about all the terrible things that were happening to me. But my laptop just could not export at that point. It was crashing all the time. It was taking like half a day to half export something and then crash and then of course not do anything. So literally that stopped the madness. So that summer before my junior year, I finally had to cope with all the demons that I was trying so hard not to cope with. So finally we start junior year, which was last year in the fall. I had just spent the entire past year going insane with art, having extremely unhealthy work habits with it. I was so obsessed with working on art to get away from all the shit in my head that like I would just work even when I was horribly sick. I would work when I was dead tired. I would work when I didn't want to do it. Like I pushed myself to the brink every single day for over a year. So the burnout was insane. Like actually freaking insane. I did not want to do art, period. I didn't want to do it. I didn't know how to do it because any passion that I had had for art previously was gone because it had become, you know, it was an addiction. It wasn't done out of joy. It was done out of a need. But I'm still an art student and the show must go on. So I started my junior year and I had no idea what to do. Like my technical skill was perfectly strong, obviously, but because I didn't have any passion in me, I was scared to draw. Like I literally didn't know what to do. And basically every single assignment that I did that fall semester of junior year, it was good, like on a technical level, but there was just something missing from all of the artworks. It just didn't have any life to it. And at the end of the semester, there was this one class, my junior illustration class. My professor had us lay out all of the artwork that we had done in that class so that we could take a look at like the growth, the progression, and talk about it. When we got to me, he was very point blank and he was like, there's really like no progress really. There's not a lot of growth. And there's just something about the artwork, and I shit you not, he used this word. He was like, they just kind of look constipated. And in that moment, I laughed really hard because I was like, yes, that's the word, constipated. There was just something about it that felt forced because it was forced. I was in the worst freaking art block because I had no energy in me. All that energy was gone. So that sucked. Hardcore sucked. And then the following spring semester, so like this past spring, things honestly got even worse because that spring, MassArt, like the people who like admit people, they asked me to be the face of illustration for their new admissions video promo thing. And I was so excited when they asked for me to do this, like amazingly stoked. By the way, you can watch the whole video on massart.edu/admissions. I was so pumped, but at the same time, I was terrified because one, I did not want to draw on camera. I just didn't know what to draw. Every time I tried to draw, I was like frozen with fear. And doing it on camera for a professional video that MassArt was going to be showing to accepted students and parading around the entire internet was terrifying. And two, I just felt like a fraud. Like I felt like I shouldn't have this honor because all of my artwork was shit and I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't feel like an artist. So there was an extreme amount of pressure put on me spring semester, and I just could not figure out what to do. And my friend, God bless her, she like sat me down multiple times and was like, hey, let's just do some fun sketching, like no pressure, just get some drawing out. Because she knew that I was struggling with this. But I shit you not, there were multiple times where I just started crying my eyes out because I was so frustrated with myself and I didn't know what I was doing. And I was just like, who am I if I can't draw? I don't know what I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. A lot of emotions. So finally, spring semester ended and then we get into summer break this past summer, where finally I was able to turn this sinking ship around. And now here I am at the part of the video where I can actually tell you the steps that I took. The first crucial step actually took place that past winter, so like in the middle of my junior year. Because I was in such an identity crisis, I kind of thought to myself, okay, I need to figure out who I am as an artist if I'm gonna go get anywhere. So I need to figure out exactly what I like to do, what works for me, etc. I knew that color was a huge thing for me. Everyone knows me for my color pretty much, so I thought to myself, what would happen if I took away the color? Who am I without that as a crutch? So I started working exclusively in black and white illustrations, and that was when the character the Little Monster came to be. And because of him, it made me realize how much I loved drawing patterns and doing elaborate details. So that was something that I was able to put in the back of my mind, like, okay, I know I like color, but here's a couple other things that I also really like to do. Also, I really like drawing cute things, cute, happy little moments. So those were things that I could tell myself, like, okay, there are a few things that I do like to do. That summer, I was like, okay, I have to get my shit together because senior year is about to start. Like, I cannot have a repeat of junior year. This is mission critical. And quite frankly, senior year was yet another thing that helped me because I had to start thinking about my thesis. And my thesis is illustrating this book called Witch Baby, which has been near and dear to my heart for years, like at least a decade. I knew I wanted to illustrate this book for my thesis project, and for me, this actually helped me a lot because I've read this book so many times that the imagery wasn't hard for me to come up with. I didn't really have to do a lot of mental wrangling into like, what's it gonna look like? I already knew. I had a very, very strong vision for this project, and because of that, I was able to actually start doing art again because I was like, well, at least I know what I'm doing with this particular project. So that was a huge step for me. On top of that, I also got my iPad, which I don't want to sit up here and act like if you want to get over an art block, you need to buy an incredibly expensive material. That's not the message of this at all. But because I got the iPad, I was reintroduced to something a little bit different. I'm one of those people that once I have a process that I really like for drawing things, I don't like to stray from it. I don't like to do any kind of experimenting. Why fix what ain't broke? So with the iPad, it forced me to kind of like use different brushes that I hadn't been using before, and that really helped. Something that I was doing junior year that was adding to the constipated look was I was either inking traditionally and then putting it into Photoshop, or I was just using the pen tool for my line art, which led to a very flat, digital, plasticky kind of look. And I wasn't using any textured brushes pretty much at all. So when I finally, noodled around, because it was like a new shiny iPad, of course I was gonna noodle around, and I saw all these brushes and started using them, I was like, oh, this is really fun. And that was yet another thing I could put in my toolbox of, okay, I really like using these textures and making it look a lot more natural and less digital, a little bit more traditional, so to speak. Another thing I had to do was really sit down and think to myself, okay, what do I like and what have I been told to like? Something that I'm sure you guys know is when you are an art student, particularly at college, there are certain ideas put in your brain about what is good and what is bad. And you don't necessarily like think to yourself, it's all kind of subconscious. So whenever I was given an assignment at school, I tended to think like, okay, what's the correct answer to this? What's like this serious illustration? I wasn't thinking about what I wanted to draw or how I wanted to draw it. I was just thinking about what was best for the assignment, which is not really the best way to think if you're trying to like find your own voice as an artist. I had to let go of a lot of ideas that had been put into my mind thanks to art school, and that's not not to bash art school and in like, oh, they tell you things and it's bad. No, it's not like that. They're pushing certain ideas onto you because they want you to have a professional look. If you were just running rampant, you wouldn't really be learning much of anything. And it's not like I ditched every single idea that all my professors have been teaching me. Not at all. Don't get that idea from this video. But there were certain things that I was doing that I was like later, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna actively stop thinking this way. For example, one of the things was I really like drawing cute things. I like drawing cute little creatures and using like an elaborate amount of detail and using lots of pink and other stuff. And a lot of the work that I did for class wasn't using all the fun pinks and everything that I would normally use for like my personal work because it wasn't serious enough. And I wasn't doing cute things because it wasn't serious enough, you know? And another thing was humans. I don't like drawing humans, but in my homework assignments, I forced myself to draw humans all the time and draw them realistically because I thought that that was what people wanted. Now I've decided that I don't really like doing it that way. If you put a gun to my head or if the project really calls for it, then yeah, I'll draw a human, but I'm no longer forcing myself to draw them the way that I think other people want me to draw them, you know? So that was another thing that I had to do. I had to push away other people's ideas that were leeching on me. And again, not every idea is a bad idea, but I had to push back and really be like, I'm gonna do what I want to do first. When I get an assignment, I'm gonna think about what I want to do and then tailor it to fit rather than the other way around, which I thought I had been doing, but I clearly wasn't. And then I think this is the last thing. The last thing I did to really hone in was I follow a lot of artists online. I'm sure I'm not the only one that goes on Instagram and follows like well over 100 artists, probably more like 200 or 500 or whatever artists. And what I realized was, as awesome as it is to look at so many incredible people online, it's also really easy to kind of lose what you like. So for example, I would be following so many people and like the first post would have tons of liner and I was like, oh my god, I love that. I'm gonna do that. And then the next post would be a person who doesn't use any line work and I was like, oh my god, I love that. I should do that. It was just constantly like, it would show one thing and then it would show another thing and it made me start to forget or like lose what I actually liked doing. There's a really big difference between what you like seeing in artwork versus what you like doing in your own artwork. So something I had to do was really like look at the artists that I followed and be like, all right, of this whole spread, who are the people that I like adore and why? A lot of how I got out of this art blog was literally analysis. I know that when I'm drawing, I like using a crap ton of line work. I don't do well with shapes. It's not how my mind works. So I just basically started to tell myself like, look, Biana, you can like these artists, but stop thinking that you're gonna be them because you're not. It doesn't come naturally to me and it doesn't make me happy. So why am I bothering? And because I followed so many artists, it was really hard for me to pinpoint all of the things that I liked, specifically why. So I picked one artist that I loved and I chose her to analyze, and her name is Victo9. Victo9 is insanely good. Please look her up if you haven't already. Her artwork is outstanding. But basically her art spoke to me because there were so many things that she was doing that I was like, that's kind of similar to my work and I would love my work to look more like hers. Like she was giving me feelings, you know? So things about Victo9. She uses a crap ton of line work. She uses a ton of detail. She uses lots of patterns. She uses lots of textured line art, textures in the colors, etc. She uses really bright, vibrant colors. All of these things were like speaking to me on like a deep level. So I spent the time really looking at her artwork and being like, okay, what exactly do I like about this? So that I can really think to myself like, okay, if I like this in her artwork and I like drawing in that same style as her, then I'm just gonna like kind of take her as my spirit guide for this journey, my role model, as I've said in other videos. So she kind of sort of ish became my role model and confirmed in me that it's like she's doing everything that I like and I'm allowed to do stuff that I like as well. So many times I would be on Instagram and I would see an artist and they were doing something so wild and goofy and like the drawing was super simple and childish or whatever, and I would look at it and I'd be like, oh, they're so cool. I love that like style. I love what they're doing. They're clearly having so much fun with their artwork. And then when it got to me, I just, for some reason, didn't allow myself the same freedom. I would do my artwork and I would think the exact opposite. Like, I can't do what they're doing. I can't have fun with it. I have to do this thing that somehow my brain was telling me that I was supposed to do. So finally, after a whole summer of like really, really deeply analyzing me, my work, what I like doing, my just general likes and aesthetics, I finally came to an impasse. You know, I finally kind of kicked the bucket, and this is the real last thing that I did. I got help. I would not be where I am right now if I hadn't gotten all the help that I had gotten to get out of that horrible mental place that I was in a year or two ago. If I hadn't gone to an insane amount of therapy, if I hadn't, I would not be making artwork. I wouldn't have gone out of that mental block. I wouldn't have gone out of that art block. I would still be obsessively drawing and beating myself with a stick if I spent less than 10 hours a day doing artwork. So if you are going through something crazy in your life, you have to fix that first. The artwork is always secondary, and the artwork will always shine better when you are in a better place. I don't give a shit what people say. If an artist is sad, that does not mean that the work is better. Okay? You have to be happy. You have to be in a good place. Please, if there's one thing you can take away from this video, it's just find your happiness first. Getting out of the block will come. So to break it down into bullet points, I played around with my style and tried to really pinpoint everything that I liked doing and I gravitated towards. I tried to let go of certain ideas and limitations that I was putting on myself for no reason because I thought that it was right, and I followed my heart. And I analyzed a crap ton of artists that I really, really liked, and I narrowed it down to essentially one to really look at and be like, okay, I really like this person and this person is similar to me. Now I need to kind of look at them for inspiration as a role model and kind of go in that direction. Again, everyone's art block is completely different. I do not want to sit up here and be preachy and wag the finger and stuff, but you gotta like take a step back, basically. You have to just give yourself some peace of mind and really just think internally. Art blocks, I feel, are very internal, and you gotta like untangle all that crap in order to get through it, and you will get through it. Christ, if I was able to get through that, you can get through it too. So I will be in the comment section for at least a little bit. Leave whatever hacks or whatever you do to get out of an art block down below. You can see the artwork that I'm making now that it's like decent, on Instagram and Tumblr. You can also catch me on Etsy for Christmas things or not Christmas things. Maybe you just want to buy them for fun. I don't care. And yeah, hopefully this video wasn't terribly depressing. I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know how your semester is going down below. We're getting close to finals week. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.